here to give you a product pitch or tell you what we're doing. What I want to sort of go through is just have a bit of an overview of what's happening in the industry and how the IT industry is going to probably change over the next 5 years. So can I start by asking a question? How many of you work for a company or are personally involved in the IT industry in such a way that you're interested in making money from the cloud? Put your hand up. It's just about everybody here. So what I want to present to you today is basically, here's some business models that we're starting to see out in the marketplace, or that are already in the marketplace today. Here's some pros and cons around them, and just really start thinking about the lifespan of some of those models and where they might go. The first business model really is the consulting concept, right? So there's a number of people who you may or may not know, you may be one of those people, who have this idea that you can go out and you can become a cloud consultant. And the idea is that you go to a customer who's looking at their IT strategy, and you say to them, well, I'll come in and I'll sort of spend 60 hours working through your IT strategy to make sure that A, that it's cloud aware, and B, that you've got a migration path. And that's all good. Now, let's just go through some pros and cons for this. So one of the benefits of this is that there's no setup required to get into this industry, into this market. You know, you can just say, yeah, I'm a cloud guy, I know about it. So it's an easy, low barrier way of getting into it. The problems with this, of course, is that if you look at the types of companies that are out there today, they generally fall into two categories when it comes to technology. Those who see technology as a strategic differentiator, and those who see technology as something they just have to do business. So it's not necessarily giving them anything beneficial. So if you look at those two camps, the sort of company that's going to be interested in looking at cloud and strategy together is going to be the guys on this side. Now they make up the smaller part of the market. Not only that, they tend to be, by and large, larger companies or IT companies. And in that sense, they actually generally have people in-house who can start thinking about these sort of things. So what this means is that while it's easy to get into this market and say, yes, this is what I do, it gets kind of stuck when you look at the actual size of the market and the sorts of companies that you've got to deal with. You don't have a huge catchment area, and then you've got to convince them that you really are better than their own people. On top of that, the state of the market right now is such that over the next little while, as Ben said earlier, there's this glut where everybody's going, well, what is the cloud? How do I make sense of this? And so while people are saying, I don't understand it, there's an opportunity for you to come in and offer those consulting services. However, that's not going to last long. The industry is changing. People are starting to see what cloud is. They're starting to understand that it makes sense to go into the cloud. And so the reality is going to be that this opportunity for consulting is only going to be around for a couple of years, maybe. So the second business model that we're starting to see a little bit is the idea of reselling the cloud. And many of you will know of doing this. You can go and become a Google reseller. You can become a Microsoft Online Services reseller. And you can resell those services. And that's a really easy thing to do as well. There's no capital expenditure required. You can go to a website, you sign up, and away you go. You then just need to go to the customers and sell a solution. So the good things are about this is easy to get into it again. You don't have to have necessarily a whole consulting business behind you. You need a few contacts to make some sales and away you go. However, there are some difficulties with this as well. To do this effectively means you've got to go really big. Because if you think about some of the margins involved, they're not particularly big. This is a margin business, right? There's a couple of things you're reliant on in this space to make this work. One of those things is you're reliant on the price to stay the same. And if you've ever been in the IT industry, you'll know when something new comes out, it starts off quite expensive, and then over 18 months it becomes really cheap. And the same will happen with the cloud. And so when you're dependent on margin, you're dependent on that pricing to stay so that there's a margin there that you can take advantage of. So as the price of things in the cloud comes down, it's going to be harder to make money doing this. Another one of the problems with this is that if you're doing it today, because the margins are low and because you've got to get scale to do it, to really make a living from it is going to be tricky. Because to make money from it, you've actually got to get a good number of sales in a short amount of time so that you've got this residual income coming in from your resale margin, which generally comes in on a quarterly or monthly or whatever it is basis. And so that's going to make things difficult as well. That's going to mean that you're going to have to go to third party, go and do other things at the same time. So you've got to expand your horizons. So if you're going to go and do just that, you're going to struggle. However, if you already provide IT services and you come along and come as a reseller, it's a whole different ballgame. That makes it a sustainable option. Another one of the business models that we're currently seeing is the idea of implementation. So these are the guys who wouldn't necessarily provide the service, but they might come along and actually, help you implement it, go from on-premise to in the cloud. And I think there's some benefits in this, and this is one of those areas that's got some sustainability about it. The good things about this is that if you've got existing IT skills in your business, it's a natural place to go, because you can take the skills you already know and you can start using those to migrate people into the cloud. Be it as a programmer taking a line of business application to Cloudforce or Azure or Amazon Web Services or whatever it happens to be, or be it taking things like Microsoft Exchange into the online space. So that's a natural thing. Some of the problems with this, of course, is that the cloud's going to be reasonably sticky. Well, that means that once a customer goes into the cloud and they go onto somebody's particular cloud solution, it's going to be hard to take them off. And I'm not just talking about your platform as a service, but you think about applications as a service, so email. Once a company goes on to email as a service, it's going to be really hard to move them from there to something else, because it's just a big thing to deal with in terms of their mind, right? So we may see that change over time as we get intermediate providers and that sort of thing, but that's one of the issues we've got to face. One of the other things about this is that over the first 2 to 3 to 5 years maybe, as customers start going from, let's take an email for instance, as they start going from email on-premise to in the cloud, the question is, well, how many of those, once they've done that, how many more times are they going to need to do it? And if it's a sticky service, it's going to be hard to continue doing that over and over again. And so what we might find is over the first 5 years, customers will make that migration once, but it's not like the IT industry today where you upgrade your Exchange servers once every 3 to 5 years. It may stay there for quite some time. There may not be a lot of work. And on top of that, tools and those sorts of things are going to make it easy so that migration itself is actually a very low cost and easily commoditized piece of work. And the last business model, of course, is providing a cloud. So this is where you've got your data center, you've got some servers, you've got some people, and you actually go out there, build a service, and sell it. The benefits of this idea, of course, are that you get to drive the market. You can come up with a new solution or a new idea, or if you see a new gap, you can actually put this into market and grab some good market share. The difficulties with this is that you're competing with really, 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 really big companies. And over time, it's going to be hard to sustain the level of growth you're going to need, particularly in a country like New Zealand, where the catchment of the country is about 4 million. And while you can take an application, put it in the cloud and sell it globally, you've also got to think about the realistic, how big your market is and how that's going to work. And so there's 2 ways this is probably going to go. One is that you're either going to end up competing with the really big companies, the Google, the Microsoft, the Salesforce and the VMwares and those sorts of companies who are going to be really big in the cloud, who are going to have economies of scale. It's going to be really hard to match. Or you become a niche player and have your own vertical that nobody else plays in, or that there's a very small number of competitors and the big people aren't there. So that's a bit of an idea of those 4 business models. I'm going to wrap up just by giving you my prediction of where I think all this is going to go. So I think the industry today, as people, if you're in a service provider industry, a lot of people in the services industry in IT see this as an opportunity to disrupt their competitors. So today I'm going to come along and I'm going to say, today I offer these services, my competitor offers these, I'm going to take those products, those services, and put them in the cloud and add my services to it. And what happens is that the revenue that this partner's getting goes over here, and this partner gets a smaller amount because some of it disappears into the cloud. So the revenue for the partner is smaller, and this customer gets a better deal, and that other partner loses a customer. Now, as this happens and it goes around, all partners, all these different service providers and system integrators are going to be doing this to each other. What's going to happen to the size of the total pie as that happens? It's going to shrink down. And so what I think we're going to see here in New Zealand is some of these companies today, $100 million companies, who have got 40% of their business is on email management and desktop management, for instance. There's a good chance that business is going to shrink over time. And so what I think we're going to see in New Zealand is we're going to see some consolidation from the bottom up. So companies looking after small businesses will start consolidating together, and they'll get rolled up, and they'll get consolidated together, and then rolled up again. And so we may end up with a situation where the number of companies in New Zealand looking after the IT industry and correspondingly the revenue from those companies is actually a lot lower and a lot smaller. So the whole IT industry from a local market point of view, shrinks down a little bit. That's my prediction. I'm looking forward to talking to some of you and seeing what your predictions are. But for now, that's me. Thank you very much.